Hi, I am here with Kira Cook today, my guest. I'm so excited to talk to you, Kira. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
Yeah. Um, Kira, I know loosely through an amazing mommy Facebook group that's like I don't even know how to, it's beyond a Facebook group. It is an incredible support network of just the coolest women, moms on
Yeah, we call
earth.
them Mom Illuminati.
Yeah, totally. Um, so anyway, we're connected that way, and I'm always so interested in connecting with other foster to adopt moms because it's such a different. I mean, it's different and it's the same, right? Like being a parent is just being a parent, but the foster to adopt road is just such a different um animal that only people who've been through it really can understand. So I'm so happy to hear your story today, and I don't know much of it. So let's start at the beginning. Like how many children do you have, and how many came through foster to adopt?
So I have two children.
Hmm.
I have a biological son and an adopted through the foster system daughter.
Okay, great. And how old are they?
So my son is five, almost six. He turned 6 in 2 weeks.
Hmm.
And my daughter is 4. They're 18 months apart, pretty much exactly.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's a lot. That's
Yeah.
great, and also probably a little hard sometimes.
Yeah. Well, it was kind of by engineering because I wanted them to be close in age, and I knew that the adoptions system, then I went into the foster system, could take a long time. So
Right.
really it was like weeks old. I was like, okay, let's start like working on how to grow our family in this other way. And,
Yes.
you know, yeah, I mean, I could go into a million. I don't want to
Yeah.
like go ahead of
Well,
myself.
no, let me just ask you, so you had a biological son, and then did you decide, like, did you always know that you also wanted to adopt, or what led you to foster to adopt?
Yeah, I always wanted to adopt. I wasn't really interested in having my own biological children at all. And it was since childhood. I don't know.
Wow.
I mean, I really had my heart set on international adoption. I'm not sure why or what sort of instigated that, but well, I know what made me afraid of having my own children is my mom loved to tell the story of my birth, which was horrible and painful. And
Oh, man.
when you hear that a certain amount of times, it's sort of like, why would I do that? If I want to have
Mhm.
children someday, there are so many children who need a home. That's how I will grow my family someday. So then I met my husband who was very open to that and loved the idea, but he was really had his heart set on, having a biological child. That's how he had envisioned fatherhood until he
Mhm.
met me. And so I thought, all right, well, we can, compromise, and we'll do both. So I will compromise my extreme fear of labor, and and we'll try that first. And the idea was like maybe we won't even be able to get pregnant. We'll see. So let's try that first. And of course, got pregnant pretty much. Well, and once I decided I was ready to become a mother, it was like there was no stopping me. I
Mhm.
couldn't stop thinking about it. I couldn't. It's just like everything you live and breathe every thought with like I'm just ready. Every baby on the street, every
Yeah,
commercial.
it's so true. Yeah.
Yeah, it's wild. It's
You
really
get
wild.
baby crazy.
Yeah, baby
Yeah.
crazy. So I went to the 99-cent store and I took a test every single day. He was like, "You're driving yourself crazy. Stop taking tests. Like you'll know when you know." And it's like, "No, I need to know the second it happens." um, so anyway, got pregnant, had my son Rowan, and when he was 6 weeks old, I started looking into adoption. And my husband,
Wow.
yeah, I know. Well, I'm a
6
Capricorn. Does
weeks.
that have to explain anything? Um,
Oh, okay.
I'm a planner, yeah.
Yep.
So just the sort of idly looking into it, and of course bringing it up to my husband, and he was like, "You are insane. We're not doing anything yet." But I was like, "Listen, it can take 2.5 years." So like from
Mhm.
being put on a list to, and if we want to have them close in age, we have to start thinking about this.
Mhm.
Even though of course we're not ready today. So I started looking around and researching international adoption, which is what I had always envisioned. And I quickly found out that it's very different than it was when I envisioned adoption when I was a child, because in the 90s, many Americans were adopting internationally, and they have since, revised a lot of the laws.
Yep.
And they, so for example, in China, a baby, if it's put up for adoption or, taken to an orphanage or whatever, it's mandatory. There's a mandatory 1 year waiting period so that domestic families can have a chance to
Uh-huh.
adopt, through their own system before
Mhm.
opening it up to the international community of parents. So, and
Right.
that was problematic for me because I loved babyhood and I really wanted to do the baby phase again.
Uh-huh.
Um, I loved it so much. Even when I was in it when he turned 1, it was just like, I can't wait to do that again. It's just such a sweet phase. And,
Mhm.
moms have different eras of parenthood that they like
Right. Yep,
best.
yep.
And I just
Yep.
loved it. And luckily I had a very good baby. So he set a good precedent. He slept well, with no colic.
Yep.
So anyway, I started, going down that lane and realizing that wasn't going to happen. And
Uh-huh.
then one day I was perusing Facebook, and my very first improv teacher, when I moved to LA and started taking improv, I was Facebook friends with him, and he's white, and he posted up came a picture of him and his little black son, and I was like, huh, well, he probably adopted. Let me just
Mhm.
reach out and ask him how how he did that. And so we went out for coffee, and he very sweetly, gave me an hour of his time. And I brought my little, my son was like 3 months old at the time,
Wow.
in his little stroller. And, he told me about the foster to adopt system, which I had never even considered or known anything about before that.
Mhm.
His wife is a
Mhm.
social worker,
Oh,
um, who's,
wow.
who's in our mommy Illuminati.
Uh-huh.
And, and there's so many of us, we don't know all of them. But because she was a social worker and had worked with the foster system, for them, it was not a question. They had a biological child and they were, of
Mhm.
course, trying to go through the foster system next. So he told me about his experience, and he said that he went through a foster agency called Extraordinary Families
Aha.
and that I should look them up. And I did. And
Yep.
I joined an orientation the next month. And I cried in it. And
Yep.
we left, and my husband and I were like, yeah, this is how we have to grow our family. I think this is what we're supposed to be doing.
Amazing. We used extraordinary families too
Oh,
for
amazing.
both of our children. Yeah, they're really great. They're
Oh,
so great.
wow.
Yay.
You've
S-
adopted two through the foster
So
system.
we have, yep, yep. So
Yeah.
we just finalized with my son. He'll be 2 in July. And
Wow.
so I was just telling somebody else this, even though he was a safe surrender, but it still has taken almost 2 years
Oh my
to
God. See
finalize. Isn't
this?
that like, it's just crazy. It's mind blowing.
It's unreal. The red tape of this system is agonizing because no case is assessed differently. They are all assessed exactly the same, which
Right.
is wrong.
Right. Right. Because you would think that it would be like a cut and dry, like, okay, this is a safe
Yeah.
surrender. We've had him for this whole time since he was 4 days old.
Oh my God.
But it was just one of those things. And I got sort of word from the social workers like, well, I think they thought this was like a low priority case because there's no like, there's no
Yeah.
like complications. But you would think that would just make them want to just do it, like
Yeah.
sign off on it. But instead, it dragged on and on. So anyway, we
Had
finally.
anyone come forward or anything?
No, no,
Oh,
not at all. Not the
okay.
whole time. So you technically have 15 day the birth mom has 15 days to come back.
Yeah.
But then they were telling us like of course they would hear her case regardless of when she came back, if she
Right.
came back.
Right.
And then the longer you've had the child, the more it's kind of swings in your favor
Yeah.
because you're the only parent that this child has known. But yeah, so it was still a bit stressful. I mean, not as stressful as it was with our daughter,
Yeah.
but which was a 2.5 year journey. But
Yeah. Same.
it was still stressful. So how old was your daughter when you or take me through just like how did you know you wanted a baby, obviously.
Yes, yeah, I wanted a
Yeah.
baby, so we told them 0 to 6 months.
Mhm.
We wanted a girl because we had a son, and I wanted the experience of having a daughter. So 0 to 6 month baby girl, and that was kind of it. We, open to
Uh-huh.
anything. And we waited. They said you could either get once you get certified, you get a call that day. That's the
Right.
lure. And of course, it wasn't. I was filming in Scotland, and we got our first call, and it was sort of like, "Ugh, I'm
Mm,
in Scotland. I'm not going to be home for another week. This probably isn't right, but I feel so crazy saying no to the first one."
right.
But it just didn't make sense. So we said no to the first call, which came maybe like I think our first call came like 6 weeks after we were certified, maybe,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, 4 to 6 weeks. And then we got another call and we said yes immediately. All we knew about her was, baby girl.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want like,
Right.
mother removed, removed from mother's care due to drug exposure?
Uh-huh.
And we said yes. And we, ran to Target to get the last minute bottles.
Mm-hmm.
And we were so excited. We told our family and we were like, and they said the foster or DCFS will drop her off by this evening. We
Mm-hmm.
waited all day. Nighttime comes, we're calling everybody. Now everybody's gone home.
Mm-hmm.
And
You're
it
like,
was
where's the child?
where's
Like,
the baby? And also, do we go
yeah.
to bed or are they going to show up
Right.
in the middle of the night? What's going on? And why won't anyone pick up the phone? Like, we're waiting for a baby here. If you say a
Right.
baby's going to come, you expect the baby to come. So the baby never came. In the morning, finally, I got a hold of someone and they were like, oh, it's that she's going through withdrawal. So we needed to keep her at the hospital. Okay, can I visit her?
Yeah.
Oh, not sure about that. And thus
Whoa.
began the you know, years long journey with this system.
Mm-hmm.
Where there's a million rules, but no, but none of them are set in stone, and nobody's going to tell you the rule. They're going to tell you to call somebody else to tell you the rule, and then it's just an endless game of phone tag. And why, if I'm on the list and I am going to be fostering this child, why would I not be able to start visiting her in the hospital, establish a bond,
Yeah.
with her, be with somebody that's not just a visiting nurse? And they wouldn't allow it. And I called all day and finally
That's
said,
really
at the end of the day,
surprising.
somebody said, oh, you can totally visit her. She's being released today. It's like, released today? What? Okay. So
Yep.
then it was like, I was literally in the car going to an audition.
Yep.
And so I called my husband. I was like, I'm going to go into this audition, which of course I'm sure I was crazy in. I'm an actor and a writer and a voiceover artist also. Um, so I was like, it was a terrible audition because all I could think about was like, I got to
Right.
go eat this baby.
Yep.
And then I get a call right as I'm about to go into the audition. It says, you know what? There was a clerical error, and we've assigned this baby to another family. So another family is going to actually take her home. Sorry about that.
Ugh.
And it's like,
Ugh.
when you orient your whole life is
Yeah.
waiting for a phone call. And then you get a phone call and the baby's coming and then it doesn't come. And then it's whatever. It was so much back and forth. It was insane.
Yep.
So my husband was like, I'm going to the hospital anyway. Who knows? Somebody should know about this and never do this to another family. So
Right.
I'm going to go talk. I need to go talk to somebody. So he went
Wow.
and he watched the other parents taking her home, like heard oh, you're the foster parent, da, 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 watched them get in the elevator. And he was like, I guess he had such a crestfallen look that somebody said, are you okay? And he said we were supposed to take on that child. And um, it was devastating. But of
Wow.
course, then I called DCFS. I was like, somebody should know about this. This shouldn't happen to people,
Yeah.
and so began my righteous crusade through the fosters to adopt system of
Mm-hmm.
trying to make it better from within, which you can't really do, um,
Mm-hmm.
because your whole life is very precarious. You want to be able to, you don't want to piss these people off.
That's right.
So I
Yep.
called them and the woman on the other line at DCFS said, oh, honey, if you want a baby, you're going to get a baby. There's a baby every day.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was like, gotcha. That's the ethos of this system, is like, there's, another day, another baby. And,
Right.
for us, it's like we had to go through months and months of training and classes and certification and house visits and emotional, mental health assessments. I mean, there's just
Mm-hmm.
like everything. Your whole life is exposed. And you have to be very committed to the idea of bringing somebody else's baby into your home for
Mm-hmm.
some time to forever.
Right.
And if you're not going to be probably going through the system. I don't think it's like
Right.
it was before. There's a lot more parameters around it, rightfully so. But yeah, that was a big wake up call, very devastating and
Mm-hmm.
weird because we never
Mm-hmm.
even met her. And then a couple weeks went by. Sorry, that was such a long story for not even getting a baby at the end of it. But
No, no, but this is how it is. This is
this is
the
how it
ins and
is.
outs of it's very unpredictable, the whole
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the whole thing. And that's why so many people, when I tell them this, I couldn't do it. There's no way. And
Mm-hmm.
in my mind, it's like I would do it again 1,000 more times,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
to get
Mm-hmm.
to Zoe. So a couple weeks go by and we get another call and they made it very clear on the phone. They're like, listen, there's family that wants this child. There's aunts and uncles at the hospital. The mother, it was drug exposure. but this baby is very wanted. So it's a
Mhm.
very small chance that this is going to be an adoption. Because we had told them, you have
You were
adoptions
hoping
have to
to
be ready
adopt.
for both, but we really
Yeah.
wanted to adopt.
Yeah.
And we said, listen, who would we be if we didn't say yes to this? This baby needs a home now. That's why
Mhm.
this baby has to go into the foster system and not with a family member. They couldn't get them certified in time, I guess, for
Mhm.
the hospital discharge. And, we said, okay, of course we want to take her and we'll love her for
Mhm.
as long as she needs. And so we took home our first foster daughter. Her name was Florencia, and she was an angel. And we
Mhm.
had her for 3 weeks. God,
Mhm.
oh my God, I'm actually blanking. It might be 2. It was either 2 or 3 weeks. In
Okay.
newborn years, that's a very long time.
Mhm.
Um, you
In
know,
lack of sleep
lack
days,
of
it's a
sleep
very
time,
long
yeah,
time.
yeah, aged exponentially. And it was such a short, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, it was such a short time, but of course we fell in love with her. And um, there was no calls from family or anything, but so it must have been 2 weeks, because on 2 weeks to the day, there was a judge's, some sort of arbitration.
Uh-huh.
And we got a call from DCFS that said, okay, Florence is actually going to be going with the biological father, and DCFS
Mm.
will pick her up today. I was like, what? You just,
Wow.
just like that? We don't even get another night with her. And so, we went out as a family for pizza the last time, took pictures in a photo booth, whatever,
Mhm.
said our goodbyes and waited again for DCFS, who never
Mhm.
showed up. And finally, in the evening, they call and say, you know what? I couldn't get overtime, so you're just going to take her to a McDonald's parking lot yourself when the dad gets off work. You can meet him at 10 o'clock at any local,
What now?
fast
At
food parking lot.
what?
Yeah. And so now, with my wisdom of having been in the system for many years, I would have said, absolutely not. You can come get her tomorrow. But I was so new and so green, and this was our first foster child, that
Yeah.
I said, okay. And I strapped her to my chest and walked over to the local McDonald's and brought all her things. And we had, taken her to see Santa. So there's pictures of her with Santa, and I gave them to the dad. So the dad and I like found each other by talking on the phone, walking towards each other in a, horrible halogen lit parking lot. And, or floodlights.
Yeah.
Anyway, just really depressing. And, he was, I think he was embarrassed.
Mhm.
And I think he was, I don't know. He just really didn't share much at all. I tried to share about her, tell him what we knew of her, and
Uh-huh.
he just really kind of wanted to get out of there, which didn't
Uh-huh.
feel great. Didn't feel great.
Right.
Um, and
Wow.
you
And
know,
you were, not to interrupt, but you were with Extraordinary Families at this time.
yes,
So did they play a role in like, kind of like supporting you, or like going with you, or telling you like you don't have to do that, like we'll do it tomorrow, or what was that piece? I'm just, not to call anyone out or anything. I'm
yeah.
just curious.
That's a great question, and I
Yeah.
honestly can't say I don't remember. I
Okay.
think this piece happened at night, which is when I believe
Uh-huh.
it's very hard to get a hold of people.
Yes.
So either I couldn't get a hold of them, or it's that they said, "Yeah, this happens sometimes, and it's
Okay.
normal." I
Okay.
don't think I would have done it without because DCFS is the ultimate arbiter. So it's like if they say I have to do it, then I have to do it.
Right.
They were the
Right.
ones
Right.
telling me to. But I'm guessing that Extraordinary Family is just like, yeah, sometimes it is this way. They probably said, "Do you want me to come with?" And I think I was like,
Right.
I don't need that, and I don't really want more people there when I say goodbye to her. I just, you know,
Mhm.
um, but I don't quite remember exactly.
Okay. Yeah, I was just curious.
Yeah,
Okay, so they reunited, then suddenly you only have the one
yeah,
child who's
yeah.
still like a baby,
Baby,
like
yeah.
a real
At this
baby.
point he was 17 months. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And he loved Florencia, and wasn't all that confused when she was gone, because he's so
Uh-huh.
young.
Right.
He's barely talking at that point. I mean, it was
Right.
words, but not. So after that, I went on my mom group,
Mhm.
and not our mom group, actually a different one,
Okay.
a smaller one that were like, there was only 200 of us, and we had a lot of in-person things, so we knew each other personally.
Mhm.
Um, Whereas ours is big, and I've never met you
Right.
before, even though we live here.
Right.
um,
Yep.
but anyway, I posted and I said, I just need to share what's going on. My foster daughter was reunited with her father, and I'm just devastated, and I just miss
Mhm.
her. And I know that that means that my daughter is still coming and she's on her
Mhm.
way to me, but it's very hard.
Mhm.
And I want to say probably 7 days later, one of the moms in that group reached out to me, texted me, and said, I told your story to my best friend who actually works for DCFS in the adoption, you know, arena.
Uh-huh.
And she had your story in mind because I shared it with her, and she was
Mhm.
so, moved by it. And, I think she probably said, keep an eye out, for her. And she has a baby. Are you interested in hearing
Wow.
about her? And it's like, oh, what? We had told Extraordinary Families we need a break. So we called
Uh-huh.
Extraordinary Families after
Mhm.
Florencia left, and we said,
Mhm.
I need 3 months. It's really hard to do this with a 17-month-old, and I'm
Yep.
I'm heartbroken. So I need a couple months to just recoup, and then
Sure.
I will do this again. So we were on pause with them, and we would have never gotten this call if I hadn't posted in the mom group about it. And
Wow.
so, like,
Oh.
seriously, we
Yeah.
owe our family to the online Facebook mom groups.
That's so cool. I have to say,
I
I feel
know, it's
like
extraordinary. It really
it
is. And every time I see her, I'm like, you are, and our kids go to the same preschool. And
yeah.
she has such a special bond with Zoe. But yeah, so I said, well, of course, even though we just went on hold, of course we'll hear the story. And, it was like good chance of adoption because the mom had had another child removed 7 years prior and had not
Mhm.
adopted, had not done the work to get her back.
Uh-huh.
And she was removed for the same reasons. And I'm trying to think of the other details. Anyway, so
Yeah.
she was a
And
newborn.
how old was she?
Newborn. She was 2 weeks
Newborn.
old when
Okay.
we picked her up, which
Okay.
was like 3 days later, 2 days
Uh-huh.
later.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, I called my husband and I was like, I mean, there's this baby. And he's like, yeah, I mean, this is exactly the kind of call that we'd be hoping for.
Right.
So why, just because it's not 3 months from now, we shouldn't wait. And it's like, you're
Right.
right. And it was like a few days before Christmas, and I'm born on Christmas, and it just felt like a little
Oh.
miracle moment. And so we went to Long Beach and got her from the hospital, and she was 2 weeks old. She was in the NICU. And I remember I asked the nurse, I was so scared. All I'd seen is a little picture of her, and I knew nothing about her, and I said, is she a good baby? Or does she cry a lot? How does she?
Mhm.
And she said, oh, I know. I said, is she colicky? And she said, this baby, no, this baby is perfect. And I picked
Oh,
her up, and
that's so sweet.
I know, so sweet. I mean, of course, I would have loved her if she was colicky, but it
Right,
was really,
right.
it's scary. It's like when you give birth, you know the baby right away.
Right.
You know that you've lived with that baby for months and months,
Yes.
and this is just, my second time showing up at a hospital and picking up somebody else's baby, and immediately
Yes.
feeling a flood of love, but also like
Yes.
I have everything to learn about her still.
Yeah. Oh God, that's so beautiful. So many things are popping up for me as you're talking. Like,
Yeah.
first of all, there's the meant to be aspect, which I'm finding in every single story. There's this
Wow.
meant to be
Yeah.
aspect where it's just it had to happen this way. It happened this way because this was the child meant to join our forever family. And I
Yeah.
firmly, firmly believe in that. And I believe that if you want a child and it might not be the first one out of the gate, but eventually you're going to see what happens and why it happens. You're going to be united with the child that you're supposed to be with. I
Yeah.
believe.
Yes, I do too.
And yeah, and the other thing is I can relate to that moment when the nurse said, "Oh, this baby is perfect." When we went to pick up my daughter, that moment right before you walk in and you're just like you don't know what to expect and you're just like, "Oh my god," and it's the NICU and everything and we said, "We're here to pick up Isabella." And the nurse said, "Oh, Isabella. We love Isabella."
Oh my
And it was just like
gosh.
this moment that we were just like, "You do?" Like just like hanging on to like, "Oh, like okay."
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
sure enough, there she is and they put her in our arms and then it was just like, "Oh yeah, we
Yeah.
love her too." And
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do think that some people have that that gene and some people don't. When I've talked
Mhm.
to a lot of people about this, it's like if you hand me a baby, I will love that baby forever, and that's my baby. Like if you need
Mhm.
to go, then I will take care of that baby forever, no problem. And a lot of women, and I kind of thought that was maybe an innate thing in humans where it's sort of like, of course, but a lot of people aren't baby people. A lot of people
True.
really don't have that sort of like immediate response to a child, and I didn't know I had it either until I became just ready to be a mother, and
Right.
motherhood felt like it was like an orb around me.
Right, and even if you don't feel that at first, that doesn't mean that that can't grow. I
Of
mean,
course
I
not.
am
Yeah.
not I will be straight honest, I am not a newborn person. I
Mm.
As they get older, for me, it's just more and more joy because I can interact with them and I can do so. I mean, I love babies too, of course, but I'm not like a baby person like
Yeah.
you're talking about.
Yeah.
And so and I know a lot of people who are, but that's not necessarily my thing, but I still, I mean, that love, it's just such an interesting relationship because the love and the bond grow
Yeah.
over time. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? It's maybe it's not that instant chemical thing of like when
Mm.
they put a biological child on your chest and it's was in your body, and yeah, I don't have that experience. I can imagine it's an immediate
Yeah.
thing because you sort of recognize each other.
Yeah.
For us it was very much like just a growing in love with each
Mhm.
other
Yeah.
every day, more and more and more,
Yeah.
until it just becomes like you can't believe that you didn't birth this child, like, you know, it
Yeah.
just feels like you're just so connected. But
Yeah.
anyway, I just want to put that out there for anyone who might be listening who's like, I don't know if I'm a baby person or I'm not a
Oh
baby
gosh,
person.
yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to do that.
No, no, not
Yeah.
at all. I'm just saying there, there's all different ways and it can work in different ways. Also, you don't have to get a baby. You know,
Yeah.
you can get an older
Absolutely.
child as well. So just
Yeah.
to put that out there. But
And I'd like to do
um
that someday, someday very much, yeah,
yeah.
is now
So
that I've had the experience.
was the fostering experience, was it relatively smooth for you, or was there a lot
Not
of
in the
stuff that came
beginning.
up? Okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it was smooth because there's sort of the specter of family,
Mhm.
biological family
Mhm.
hanging over the case at all times, and that just really made me feel like, you want to feel like you can love them forever, and you really can
Yes.
only love them as long as they're in front of us,
Yep.
and that's the case with their biological children too. It's like you
Right.
can't, you have no control.
Right.
um, and it's like a gradual, lessening of control as they get older and older and older. But and that's like a really intense reckoning of motherhood, that I'm like in this phase of now, where it's like, yeah, I'm they're moving out of like, toddler phase into like
Yeah.
kid phase,
Yeah.
and that's a big shift. But with Zoe, she had a biological half sister that was adopted by her aunt. And
Okay.
so we were told in the beginning that family had not come forward and no
Mhm.
one has expressed interest, and they couldn't really get a hold of anybody and no one was calling. And then eventually, like, I don't know, a week or two in, the grandmother called, but she was immediately not deemed fit by
Okay.
DCFS. So she didn't become an option.
Mhm.
And about 3 months in, Zoe was like just very sick a lot. I think it's because my
Mhm.
son was in preschool and he just like kept any cold, he
Mm.
would just knock her out.
Mhm.
And so she had ear infection after ear. Every month she had an ear infection. She finally got the ear tube
Oh,
surgery and she hasn't had one since. But
wow.
she was 3 months old and she got RSV, which is a
Oh,
very scary, baby virus, kid
yeah.
virus,
Yeah.
and it made her breath very shallow. And I had just gotten on the plane to, actually, that was the second time. So no, anyway, the first time I took her to the doctor and they said she needs to go to the hospital right now. She's got a really low oxygen levels.
Wow.
And so she needs to go get oxygen therapy and be hospitalized. So I was, of course,
Mhm.
like a mess. And we stayed in the hospital with her for, I think it was 3 or 4 nights. And we would just trade off being with our son at home or in the hospital with her. And it's so terrible. They're so tiny in that huge hospital bed, and
Yeah.
you can't sleep with them because it's not safe. And so you sleep in like, and I'm using quotes, not safe, in case you're
Right.
not watching on video.
Right.
Um,
Right.
but there's a tiny cot that you're given. I mean, the whole thing is just horrible and uncomfortable. And she's in all these tubes and wires, and just,
Mhm.
she can't be walked around, and it sucks. So we get home from the hospital on Sunday, and DCFS called, no, Extraordinary Families called me that morning and said, just so you know, DCFS is going to be reaching out to you. They found the aunt, and the aunt wants to take her. And this was like after spending, all this time in the hospital with her,
Yeah.
like becoming crazy attached to this little person.
Yes.
And I said, oh no, can I ask her if that's her intention, or she said she's going to call you. She wants to like have a play date with you,
Mhm.
but I'm giving you this knowledge, you know. And I said,
Right.
well, can I talk to her about it on the phone? And they said, we strongly advise that you wait till the play date and just bring it up on the play date. You can just
Okay.
ask, is that your intention? Just so you
Right.
know. But because of course it's like you just want to know what can I expect? And this
Right.
whole journey is you can't know anything really.
That's right. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
it's a letting go of control. And
Mhm.
so yeah, she called me right when we got home from the hospital and said, you know, I was like, I'm like so intimidated by this stranger, this woman who could change my upend my life, you know. And of
Yeah.
course, I also agree that it is her right to call and say, this is my family and my blood. And perhaps she just found out about her. I mean, it's sort of like, what's taking so long? She's 3 months old at this point. We've had her for three
Mhm.
months.
Mhm.
Um, but she was so sweet and so friendly. And, you know, I'd love to just have a play date. We'd love to meet her. And we had a lovely conversation. And I said, well, we can't now. I mean, we just got home from the hospital. Oh, why?
Mhm.
Oh my gosh, thank you for taking care of her, etc. And then at the end of the conversation, I said, I'm sorry, I'm supposed to wait until I see you to ask this, but I can't possibly wait one more day to know the answer. Are you planning on adopting her? You know, is that why
Mhm.
you've kind of called? And there was like a long pause and she said, oh, well, did you want to adopt her? And I said, yes, we're in love with her.
Yeah.
We're wildly
Yes.
in love with her. We would keep her forever and we want her to be our family, but we understand that you as her biological family get priority.
Yeah.
And she said, oh, honey, I have fostered like 7 kids in this family. They've all been removed from their parents for one reason or another.
Wow.
And I know that heartbreak, and I would never do that to another woman. So if you want to keep this baby, I'm happy if I just get to have a relationship with her.
Oh my
And I was
god.
like, oh my God,
That's
I started weeping.
amazing. Yeah.
I know. And it's like,
Wow.
the thing I asked, what if I had never said anything?
Yeah.
You know, because
Yeah.
DCFS makes it seem like it's a game of telephone, right? And unless the foster parent advocates for themselves, you don't
Yes.
know the truth.
100%.
And I don't think it's
100%.
like specious on the you know the side of DCFS. I think it's like they really really push for biological family reunification,
Yes.
but to the point where it's like, what if it doesn't make sense for that? What if the biological family isn't really serious about it? Like, why would
Right.
you phrase it as this is happening? You know, why
Right.
do that? You know, and as opposed to having the conversation.
Yep.
Um, it's like everything is there's no gray area. So anyway, we ended up meeting up at a playground like a couple weeks later when Zoe was better, and she met her half sister who was like 7 at the time. And you know, the aunt sort of like reiterated, you know, when she was in her 50s, I think she didn't necessarily want to adopt a baby. I don't think
Right.
that she wanted to do that again. Understandably, it's a huge undertaking.
Yeah.
Um, because of course it's like if that's what she really had wanted, she wasn't going to let a foster parent stand in the way. So
Right.
you
Right.
know you know, we had a lovely visit, and she said, I just want to see her. I just want to be in her life. Send me
Mhm.
pictures. You know, I think her sister's going to have a problem with us not taking her. And sure enough, the sister, I guess, had asked a lot, like, why can't you go
Mhm.
with us, you know?
Mhm.
um but yeah, so that happened. And then in the beginning, of course, the mom had never done a visit, never one single visitation, didn't do a single thing for the case. The dad
Mhm.
was supposedly in jail, but we still don't even know really.
Mhm.
His the whole thing is a big question mark.
Mhm.
Um, but the mom did call me a couple times in the beginning, and she was angry and hostile,
Mhm.
and sort of said that she would be taking her. So like said that you know, that's my baby. I'm gonna get, you know, don't basically don't get too comfortable.
Uh-huh.
Um, but she never did anything she had to do for the case. So,
Right.
but that was scary. You know, those phone calls that are sort of like hostile and weird. And you know, after the very first phone call, I said, listen, I can't imagine what you're going through, and I'm sorry. And it was on
Mhm.
Christmas that she called because we had just taken her home on Christmas, like 2 days before
Mhm.
Christmas. And she didn't want to have that conversation with me. You know, she wasn't
Mm.
about to like commiserate with me about
Right,
her
right.
situation,
Or
which fair
be
enough.
vulnerable because that would
Yeah,
require vulnerability, and that was probably something she was not able or wanting to or yeah, able to
yeah,
share. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, so there was some phone calls with her.
Mhm.
And then I'd say about a year in, she called and said, I want you to adopt her and I'm going to sign the papers.
Hmm.
And that it was like, oh my
Wow.
gosh, good, because we've heard that this can take years, even though she never did a thing and the dad is
Right.
MIA.
Yep.
There's still these, like, every time we had a court date, it would be continued. Every time.
I
I'd
know.
go down to the family court, and the judge would just leave early that day. So they'd come out and they'd say, all right, rest of the cases, we'll see you in 6 weeks because the judge has to leave early.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Or whatever. So it's like every
Yeah.
time it was like longer, longer,
Yep.
longer.
Yep.
So I was like, okay, if you sign the papers, then we can do this faster. But she never did. She never,
Mm.
it required, you know, follow through. And
Right.
um,
Right.
she just didn't do that. So
Uh-huh.
so we just kind of waited out her court, and the whole time
Uh-huh.
just sort of like, yeah, being a little worried that like she would start doing what she needed to do,
Yeah.
or that the aunt would change her mind, or that
Yep.
another cousin or something would come forward because she has a kind of big family.
Right.
Um, but that didn't happen,
Mm-hmm.
and finally 2.75 years into the process, we adopted her.
Wow. Oh
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
What was that day like?
Oh my
Tell me
gosh.
about that day.
Well, of course, but it's like, it's so delayed. It's like there's so many
Mm-hmm.
weird steps. It's like, it's going to happen, it's going to happen, it's probably going to happen,
Yeah.
then the date gets continued, and then it was COVID, so we couldn't go into court anymore, so that sucked.
Mm.
It was like there was no longer, because I went to every court date I could, even though they don't let you in, you have to sit outside the courtroom.
Mm-hmm.
And the very last one, they let me in. My mom was with me, but they made us sit in the back of the courtroom, and they
Yeah.
basically whispered the entire time, so I
Yeah.
couldn't
It's
hear
hard to
anything.
hear.
Yeah.
It's interesting that you're saying that they didn't let you in because for all of mine, I attended all of ours too. And we were always allowed in, but
What?
we always had to sit in the back, and you're not allowed to say anything.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to like talk unless you're addressed by
Yeah.
the judge. And yeah, the it's so funny that you say that about whispering because I was just like it always on the edge of my seat with like a pen because you have to no electronic devices so you can't even like try to tape it or anything, and I would just be like, wait, what did they say, what did they say? You know what I mean? And like
Yeah.
it was maddening because I would leave and just be like, I don't even know what they said. Like, I can't really tell you what they said. They said something about blah, blah, blah. And I would just like have these
Yeah.
like one word on a piece of paper. Like, what does this mean?
Yeah,
But
and why
yeah,
your video is frozen. I hope I'm not freezing
I
for
know
you.
mine is frozen. Yeah, I see that. I guess if the audio is still good, let's not worry about it.
Okay, great. Yeah, I heard everything clearly. Yeah,
Cool.
I was never allowed in, and I don't why, I wonder, because yours was a safe surrender and there are parents involved in mine. I don't know why they would not allow us in. They didn't allow any of the other, well, I guess I didn't
Yeah.
know really what the other cases were.
Right, right. Yeah. I don't know. That is weird because
Interesting.
my daughter wasn't a safe surrender and it was still like that.
Huh.
Oops. We might have lost each other.
Oh, no. I can
did
hear you
your
fine.
Oh wait, my video went blank. How weird. I'm gonna get out and then come back in again. And
Okay.
I could just always I'll deal with this later in
Okay.
the recording, so
Okay.
I'm not worried about it. Okay. Let's see. I'm
See you
gonna
in a second.
in. I don't know why did my camera just go completely dark? That's like the weirdest thing. I don't know what to make of that.
Huh.
Yeah. I
Maybe turn
wonder.
it on and off. That's all my husband seems to ever do, and it works.
Add to stream. I didn't change anything. That's like the weirdest thing.
Hmm.
And
It just stopped.
it just stopped. Yeah, let's see. Stop. Now I'm going to start it. Why would it just go completely black? That is insane. Remove from stream. We make a weird be a weird thing. And we'll just go with you
So
on
black.
video and me. I mean, the other thing we could do is we could actually stop the whole thing and we could restart, but that's kind of annoying in
Yeah.
terms of the flow of the
Are you gonna use the
conversation.
video, do you think, or is this
Probably
just
not. I think
Mhm.
it's more for being able to grab little snippets and
Yeah.
then,
Oh, yeah.
for promotion, and then it's also for sometimes people do like to consume video like over audio. So,
Yeah.
just throwing it on YouTube. But I don't need me. I mean, I'm glad you're still available. I
I'm
don't
here.
really care. And I'll take this out, all of this part.
Okay.
But anyway, okay, so getting back to court. So it took a while.
Yeah. Yeah, it
Yeah.
just took a while. It took a very
And
long
then we were
time.
talking about the actual adoption day. Did you have family and friends join you, or
We weren't allowed to
oh,
go to the
you weren't
courthouse
allowed
because
because
it
it
was
was
COVID.
COVID.
Yeah. So we logged
Yeah,
in on Zoom and
anticlimactic.
yeah, very anticlimactic. We knew the day. Well, it was very exciting because was it first? I think we had a visitation with our foster, or sorry, our DCFS social worker, who
Mhm.
comes, I think it was like once a month or once every 2 weeks. And she had a visit that day, and it happened that day. And so she said, she came and I opened the door. She said, "You're gonna adopt. It's official. You officially adopted her." And so then she's like, "I wanted to tell you in person. I'm so glad we had the appointment today. I can't believe it." And then she forwarded me
Mm.
the emails and stuff. So we kind of celebrated with her and cried, and then joined on the Zoom. I think it was like that was when, ugh, God, now I can't believe it. It's only been a year and a half, but I'm already forgetting like all the
Right.
micro details. But I think she told us that like we had had a date set for the adoption, and
Okay.
then Tyler and I logged on to whatever
Yep.
Zoom court, and heard our names, and that was the official.
Yep.
No, that must have been first, and then because there's paperwork, right? Because like even when they say they bang the gavel and say it's adopted, then you have to wait for paperwork to be like truly official, I guess. Isn't that it? I don't remember what's first.
No, for us it was
The other
once
way?
they bang on the gavel, it's the other way around. You sign all the
Okay.
adoption stuff, but then you have to wait for the court date.
I think that was
And
it.
then
Yes.
once the judge signs off on it, you are officially adopted. However, the weird thing is you still have to, like, did you apply for a social security number? Because we have to. So when you sign the paperwork, you will get a birth certificate. They explain that you'll get a birth certificate in the mail, but it takes like 6 to 9 months. So we're
Mhm.
still waiting on that.
We are
And
also we
and
have
then
it, but we lost it in the move, and I tried to apply for another one, and it was rejected, so now I have to go to birth and life
yes,
records.
it's
But we
like
do
a
have a
whole
Social
thing.
Security card.
Because we're moving, and so I gave them my I gave them my mom's address, but she's experiencing like a lot of memory issues, and I'm just
Oh
like,
oh my
I
god.
really hope that she, like, and I remember from the last time with Izzy, it's just a
Yeah.
plain white envelope. Like, it's not even, I remember
Yeah.
I had been waiting so long with her that one day I went to the mailbox and I'm flipping through all the mail, and I thought it was like a bill or something, or like junk mail. I didn't even know.
Yeah.
I didn't
You should be
recognize, and I was
decorating
like,
it with
"Oh,
stars and glitter
yeah."
and
It was
confetti.
crazy. Thank God I opened it, and then I opened it and I was like, "Oh my god, this is her birth certificate." And like we
Yeah.
had never known details, because her when you sign the paperwork, they give you the file, right? But
Yeah.
sometimes that file is like just not complete at all. So like we never knew like the time of her birth. We never knew anything. So like I just was staring at it and I was like, wow, like okay, she was born at like 3:33 a.m. or whatever, like just
Yeah.
putting that final
You can
piece
do
of
the
the
birth chart
puzzle.
now, the astrological
Yeah,
birth chart.
exactly, because I could never do that. I didn't know when
Yeah.
exactly she was born. So yeah, so that was magical, but it takes a long time. But the social
Yeah.
security card, you also have to still go and apply for.
Yeah.
And like with my son, it's a complication because he never had one. Because he was a safe surrender, they didn't assign him a number. So they
Ugh.
were like, you have to provide the birth certificate. And I was like, but I don't have the birth certificate. We
Yeah.
just finalized, here's all the court paperwork. And they were like,
Mhm.
but how can you prove that he's a US citizen? And I'm like, this is signed by the Superior Court of Los Angeles. Like, this is
Yeah.
real.
Isn't that good enough?
And it wasn't. So now I have to wait 6 to 9 months for hopefully the birth certificate to come, and then I
Oh
can
my
take
god.
that to the Social Security. Anyway, yeah,
It's such a pain
that's
in
the
the
kind of
ass.
stuff. Yep, that's the stuff that we deal
Yeah.
with. Got to have
Well,
like a
because we didn't have an in-person, the gavel moment, we
yep.
threw her an adoption party with our closest friends and her little friends,
Mhm.
and we had my friend who's an actor, I said, "Would you like bang a gavel and wear a judge robe and come and just like
Oh,
say the thing. I just want to hear the thing, and like that,
yes.
because I read that, in court they ask the parents, they ask the child, do you accept this as your them as your
Yes.
family?
Yep.
And I was like, I want that moment. I don't want COVID to take that away from us. We've waited so long
Yes.
for this, and this way we get to do it with our friends and our family. And so we had this really fun like pool party with cake and tacos, and then my friend dressed up in a judge's robe and a gavel.
I
And I have a
love
video,
that.
yeah, of
Oh,
Zoe
that's
and
so
Ashley
cool.
saying, "Yes."
Oh, I love that. That's so special. Yeah. I often think that like people like you and I, actors and creatives are uniquely suited to this in a weird way because of a lot of different stuff, right? Like, so we're very used to having to pivot on a moment's notice. We're used to having
Mhm.
to be flexible and like go with whatever the situation
Yeah,
is and like all of that kind of stuff, make it work, say yes,
yeah,
like all of the stuff, and we're used to like kind of no schedule is the schedule because every day is different and everything is different. So I wonder if
mm,
that plays into like that we're like suited for this type of thing. Also like dealing with
yeah,
rejection, dealing with like things not going the way you thought they were going to go and all of
yeah,
that stuff.
completely, yeah. Yeah, being very available to the idea that it might not work out, and
Yep.
that's okay because that means that there's another opportunity around the corner. And I think
That's
a lot of
right.
people aren't wired for that. Yeah.
Yep. 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 Yep.
Yeah, that's
So
interesting.
now after this, do you think you would ever do it again, or is your family complete now, or how do you feel about it now?
Um, my husband just sent me a meme the other day of Nicolas Cage, like, yelling and screaming and crying, like, and I was like, my wife telling me that she absolutely breaking down because she cannot handle one more tantrum, meal, whatever with the kids, and then it switches to Pedro Pascal, where he's, like, on acid in the car, like, looking insane, and it's like
Yep.
then she tells me she wants a 3rd baby. And, that's kind of where I'm at.
Yep.
I'm very tired and, can't imagine adding another
Mhm.
responsibility. But I love kids so much and I love
Mhm.
babies so much. And I think basically we left it at like next year we'll talk about it and perhaps we foster again with an older child.
Right.
I don't think we want to take any children into our home that are above the ages of our kids because I think it would like kind of set I don't know, just he's like Rowan's our firstborn. I think it would be very
Mhm.
strange for us to bring in somebody older than him, and all of a sudden he's the younger sibling.
Right,
Um,
preserving the birth order as I
exactly,
I
proving the birth.
understand it, yeah, is
Yeah, which is
can
not
be.
precious to me as much as my husband. I was raised an only child, so
Mhm.
I just always wanted siblings,
Right.
and they ask for one all the time.
Do they?
And daddy keeps saying no.
Mhm.
So I'm not sure. I'm not sure. But
Right.
we didn't do the classes to renew our because there's so many really
Yes.
boring classes to
Yep.
keep your certification up. And we're like, we'll do it again in a year or two when we've kind of revisited this. So for right
Sure.
now, it's
Yep.
just the 4 of us.
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Can we talk a minute about I think I understand. Are you a transracial family? I don't know what the ethnicity of your kids are or of
No.
your adopted
Yeah.
daughter. No?
No, Zoe ended up weirdly being white, and not
Okay.
only white, looks exactly like me. Everywhere we go,
Wow.
she's like, "Oh, your daughter looks just like you." And it's like, I know, and she's adopted, and it's crazy.
Wow. That
Yeah,
is
very
really
strange.
interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah. That's cool.
those
Yeah,
two
I'm
little
trying
blonde.
to just looking to have the conversation with someone about a transracial adoption because we have that with my son is
Yeah,
African American, and
yeah,
so that's another unique thing. So just was wondering
absolutely.
if that was a thing.
No, but I can connect you to 2 moms who do,
Oh,
if
that would be
that's
great.
helpful.
Yeah,
Yeah,
if yeah, that would be awesome. I'd just love
yeah,
to have that be a part of the
yeah,
conversation because that's a whole nother dynamic that's
yes,
worth, I think, exploring.
yeah.
Um, Amazing. So let's see, do you have any advice or any kind of like words of wisdom for any people who are thinking about doing this, not sure, on the fence, anything like that?
I mean, I guess my advice would be to attend an orientation where you just learn more about it because I think that the being a foster parent, being a foster child has some really weird negative connotations in this country, and it's been portrayed horrifically on media, in media in the past, and that's how we mostly learn about a lot of sort of government regulated, uh, I don't know, human organizations. And
Mhm.
so I was sort of shocked at how many children are in need of homes, even in LA County, that they have to go to other counties to find parents. There's just not enough resource. Well,
Mhm.
now they're called resource parents, as opposed to
Right.
foster parents. Um, and it really opened my eyes too. I came in with a lot of, excuse me, I came in with a lot of prejudicial biases about drug exposed kid.
Mhm.
When I
Mhm.
began orientation, or when I began training to become a foster parent, I said to my husband, I will happily take any child that needs a home, but not drug exposed babies, because why? I'm not sure why, but
Mhm.
in my head from, whatever 80s, growing up in the 80s and 90s,
Yep.
we were taught to really fear that. And
Yep.
the more research I did about it and the more I learned in training, it was just like, there's so many ways that that can go, and so many ways it can go when you have your own child,
Right.
biologically, and you can do everything right in your pregnancy, and you can avoid lox and sushi and
Mhm.
alfalfa sprouts, and children can still get ADD and have
Right.
mental health issues. It's just, and nothing is guaranteed. So the more I learned about it, the less afraid I became of it. And then it sort of became like, oh, of course, any baby that needs a home
Yeah.
is something that I want to help. So
Yep.
um,
Yep.
the training is really calming, I think, to a
Mhm.
very like chaotic system.
Mhm.
And I really credit extraordinary families with that. They do a really good job of moving you through understanding it. I don't know. I mean, I can't imagine having gone through this through DCFS just straight. And it's not like you have to
Directly.
pay for yeah, you don't
Right.
have to pay for the nonprofit, of the FFA, the foster
Right.
agency. It's not like you pay for it. I mean, it's a nonprofit, but it's just really helpful, really, really helpful to have somebody hold your hand through this. And they really
Yep.
were very involved and very sweet and loving.
Yep.
Um, so yeah, I really recommend them, or finding, wherever you are, finding a foster agency that comes
Yes.
recommended.
Yep. I
And
agree.
yeah, and knowing that like it'd be impossible not to fall in love with this person under your care. And so I think it's
Yep.
possible for anybody who's interested, really.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so, so much for being my guest today. It's great to
Thanks.
talk to you. I'm so happy for you and your family,
Thank you. You
and just
too.
wishing you all the best.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.